Okay, semifinals. Here we are. Adrian Becker versus Eric Dupuis. Orcish Survival versus Rug Delver. We got a kind of a classic, well, a new classic, I'd say, vintage deck in the Rug Delver versus something no one's ever seen before.
I was excited to make the top four. I'd never played Rug Delver before. It looked like a strong list. It served me well all day. I don't think I had dropped any games up until this point. So yeah,
Spoiler alert.
So yeah, it's a solid list. It's able to apply pressure, and it looks like I've got a turn 1 Delver and a Time Walk in there. Young Pyromancer, Force of Will, so that looks capable to me.
A lot of good stuff going on. Did Adrian, was that a mulligan or is he not done shuffling?
I believe he's mulling here.
Okay.
Yeah. On paper, I like my matchup. I think the mental missteps are huge if I use them correctly. The ability to stop those Orcish Lumberjacks and commit to the board aggressively is huge. Goyf is a lot smaller than the stuff in Adrian's list, like Colonian Hydra, so that's a problem. You got to keep the fatties off the board, otherwise you're just going to get trampled. Not having full power means Null Rod is potentially, not even exciting, not even worth casting.
Yeah. Now Adrian's got to go down to 5, and that's pretty significant, I think, in this matchup because his deck is kind of like one of those decks that's based around card disadvantage. It makes up for the disadvantage with the huge power level of the spells he is resolving, but he's sacrificing a lot of things to get those spells.
Yeah, and I think it changes the way that I'd play against it. Like the cards that I'll Force of Will or Spell Pierce or Flusterstorm or whatever type of counters I have, you have to assess that differently when your opponent mulls the 5. You're going to counter spells that you might not counter on a full heap just because they probably don't have any better on a mull to 5.
Right.
So it definitely changes things. What we got? 6?
No, it's a 5.
Looked like he drew 6, no? Alright, so we got a turn 1 Delver. And a Taiga.
Into a bird.
So we've got a Delver on my side of the board versus his Birds of Paradise. Looks like Adrian kept on 6 there. Maybe that initial shuffling was just the opener. I thought that was a double mull.
And I wasn't sure. It was probably just the initial 7. So we got access to 3 right now.
All the colors available. Birds of Paradise. I'm surprised Adrian doesn't have like beta birds in there. I'm gonna have to talk to him about that.
Yeah, what's up, Adrian? you know what it is? I think I know what it is. He can't decide if he wants beta or alpha or foil 7th edition. So he's allowing us to have this opportunity to kind of help him flesh out the options.
To discuss the merits. I mean, I think alpha and beta are the way to go for his collection. He's got a lot of non-foil cards. If it's available in alpha or beta, he tends to go for that. Like the beta forests compared to the other more expensive options. It just keeps it classic.
Very old school.
So blue, and there's that Magus potentially doing a lot of work in this matchup. I only have 2 basic islands. Everything else in the deck is now a mountain.
You have your lightning bolts turned on right now.
I do, and
a Pyroman.
Young Pyromancer off of 2 tropical islands. Not something you see all the time, but pretty good. I've got a Time Walk in hand. I haven't used it yet. The game plan is more get as much value as possible out of Time Walk with a deck like this. You don't have Tinker or Yawgmoth's Will. You don't have anything really busted. Time Walk's as close as you get to that, so you really want to make it count when you can. Of course, there are times when you just need to cycle it, and it's great because you're allowed to do that. But when possible, if you can turn it into a bunch of extra damage, that's going to be the best way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's draw a card, get an extra land drop for free, you know?
And the attack step is really, really big. So, survival? Is that what we're seeing here?
Could be. Could be a survival, could be a scavenging ooze.
Survival would be big.
Yep. And it is.
That is
Meets a
worth
force.
forcing. And Steel Sabotage is of no consequences in this matchup. Easy blue card to pitch. Create a 1/1 token. I literally built this deck about a half hour before the tournament, so I didn't have any kind of tokens on board. I'll have to figure something out if I'm going to continue playing it.
Pokemon cards have been popular tokens lately.
Apparently. I've got some really old school crazy games I'll have to take a look through. Like really obscure stuff. See what I can come up with. Hey, that is an excellent card to flip for Delver.
Yeah, too bad you don't even have blue mana.
Yet.
Yet.
Yeah. I mean,
Keyword there.
It's not far-fetched to consider bolting the Magus at some point here. The deck is running 4 of them, so that's a very likely line.
Mm-hmm. Willing to trade with the Magus, because you know Adrian's not going to make that trade.
Yeah, there's no way you can do that. Double Magus. Or double Pyromancer. That was actually kind of an interesting offer. Because if you traded there, then I don't get to cast the Pyromancer. Stormbreath Dragon.
What is that? What does that do?
So, it goes monstrous is what it does. It's a 4/4 flying haste pro white, so you're not Swords to Plowsharing it. And it goes monstrous for 7 mana, and it deals damage equal to the number of cards in your opponent's hand to them when it goes monstrous.
Oh.
So he's a wrecking ball.
And he gets what does he turn? It's like a 7/7 or an 8/8. 7/7 off monstrous, and he didn't swing.
No, he's holding back here. He recognizes the potential to get out-tempoed.
Yeah.
So what do we have here?
1 bolt equals 2 more elemental tokens right here.
And I've been sandbagging that time walk all game. Oh, there's the bolt. So this is definitely going to happen.
Stuff and things.
Making lots of tokens. So already representing 8 damage on board. Of course, he's got blockers. Going to be getting rid of one of those. Oh, and I pass. Interesting.
Just doing it on his end step seems fine. Kind of not letting him make decisions on his turn based on that lightning bolt.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a very, very conservative line.
Is that a scavenging ooze?
Might be a second survival. Is that the ultimate?
Oh, the foil survival. I had an opportunity to get some of those, and I passed on it for like $20 a piece, and I think they're a good deal more than that right now.
That card leaving Legacy definitely changed the value quite a bit.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see it go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Look at all this. You got 5 tokens on the table.
Versus just his Stormbreath Dragon and Birds of Paradise's blockers.
You can time walk and make up to 7 tokens. Yeah, I think you got this.
Yeah, holding on to the time walk proved to be extremely important here. And all of this just on those 2 troughs so far. Haven't seen any red mana, so that Magus really didn't work out as well as it could have for him.
No. Let you play the Pyroman and the Lightning Bolt. So you're considering all your options on the end step. Still get to untap.
Yeah, you can block 2. I think there's nothing you can survival and do that's going to be relevant.
Oh, okay. So you did that during his main phase?
Was that in response to the survival? To try and
probably.
Force? That would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so he copied the the dragon and is swinging for 4 haste.
Why doesn't he? I guess one more blocker doesn't really do much, right? Is that the logic?
There's a lot of damage on board here.
Yeah.
We've got blue, probably blue gush. Be able to make the land drop, time walk. Adrian.
Bolt the phantasm. Oh, you don't leave the phantasmal image as a blocker because a lightning bolt kills it.
Oh, and brainstorm. So time walk here is
the game.
Now without the might actually have been enough because we're looking at well, who knows the
2, 4,
insanity
5,
that
6,
would happen
7.
with that survival. I mean, survival could have been a
Right. He has board wipes.
He does. He could take care of my entire team if he gets an untapped step. So we don't want that. At least from my side of the table. In time walk.
Seals the deal right there.
And just send with everything.
Yep. And Adrian not scooping, allowing you to potentially screw it up. Maybe seeing if you're going to miss any triggers or get any additional information, although I think he has all the information he needs.
Yeah, my list, not much of a surprise. It's top 8 in Vintage Champs, everybody knows about it, and, you know, that's actually lethal there.
Yeah. Because
13. No, 9.
9, and
Really got something back. Even if they were, it wouldn't have been 13. Not sure where that came from. No.
Nope.
Now he's got access to those red blasts. Those would be really good. From Lava Man could kill a lot of creatures in my deck. Definitely that Caldera Hellion. That kill everything except for the Tarmogoyfs.
Sometimes it even kills Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, it absolutely could. 3 damage could potentially be enough. It's not like he's bulking it. So, yeah, it's very conceivable that you could just happen to be a 2-3 when that guy hits. Scavenging Ooze, very, very good in this matchup.
Keeps things in check.
Keeps everything in check, lets you gain life, and the counters double when you swing at the Colonian Hydra.
So gross.
Yeah, but for 2 mana, that guy gets absolutely enormous. Hammer Mage can come out. The Null Rods probably come out. I don't think he keeps it in versus a deck that's running so few pieces of power. It's not like I have anything aside from mana acceleration. It really is better versus decks with like Skull Clamp or Sensei's Thought or Time Vault Key.
Right.
Anything other than just a handful of monsters. This list that I ended up running, I think it only has the 2 on-color monsters. Here you got just Ruby and Sapphire.
Green is the least represented color in your deck.
Yeah, it's really only for the Tarmogoyfs and the flashback on which is really not that important. You really want red. It's mostly a red-blue splash. That's the way to look at it. Even in the post-board games, you bring in stuff like Pyroblast, and then Ancient Grudge is kind of a split there.
Well, it is really, really a mana source that is not an island.
Yeah, absolutely. As we saw, the deck seems to be a little mana light. I think it's just built to ride that line. I wouldn't want to play against a field full of Wasteland. I did play against a Wasteland deck at some point in the Swiss, and Gush was, solid. They Wastelanded. I responded with Gush. I did win that game fairly easily. So there's something to be said for the ability to play around Wasteland. But there are times where you really don't want to be gushing in response to that.
Yeah. Like you're just setting yourself back anyways. Especially in like a tempo situation. Maybe against like Merfolk, that's probably not the best line.
Well, versus Merfolk, actually, it does have a lot of synergy because you can pick up all your islands. That's potentially really good. There are times where you could have like a Void for 2 out and just pick up your islands, make really favorable blocks, and just completely blow them out. So I would have liked to play against Merfolk. I don't believe I got to play against it this event. I'd have to think back in my matchups. No, I did not play Sean. I believe there were 2 Merfolk players in the room. I definitely like to see the influx of new decks, people experimenting, trying the decks to see why they work. I wouldn't have thought that rug would have been a reasonable option. Like, looking at it, there are times where you can go like land lost, turn one, a zero, it sounds absolutely terrible.
Yeah, not very impressive. But there's a lot of things going on for it that's just, it disrupts from a lot of angles. It's got permanent based removal, stack based removal, and just like a lot of resilient threats in the form of like Young Pyromancer, 1-mana threats because of the Delver of Secrets, and Tarmogoyf has a certain amount of resiliency because he's not weak to Lightning Bolt necessarily.
Yeah, it bolts everywhere. The only thing I would have liked to see different is the deck runs 3 Nature's Claim. I would love to play Ingot Tour. I feel like versus shops, running boys, if you're able to poke an Ingot Tour and blow up their Thorn of Amethyst, you just have so many card types in the graveyard right away.
Yeah.
So that would be very powerful. But I think you end up running the Nature's Claim because it's so weak to oath, and I think that's what it really boils down to. When you play this deck, the only way to win is by drawing these guys. He's just going to fold it here, not able to keep it off the table. Next since this tournament, and was able to get it based off of running on Draft Digger's Cage and then Nature's Claiming while he was tapped out. He abrupted my Draft Digger's Cage and I responded to Nature's Claim, and that was the match. So here we've got the battle of some 1-drops, Delver versus Orcish Lumberjack, and a Grim Lavamancer. Now Lavamancer could be a huge problem here.
That's hot.
He only has the 1 card in the graveyard, so not active yet. Of course, he could use the Orcish Lumberjack to just jet land right in there and start killing guys. So, see what happens. No flip on Delver.
Yikes.
Looks like a gush in hand. It was a recurring theme for me throughout the week, throughout the tournament. Delvers, they don't flip as much as I'd like.
Well, the Bolt is gonna keep your Delver on the table for now. But that just makes Adrian's decisions a little easier.
Well, I've got the red and the green mana here early, so that's excellent for me. I'm more than willing to trade up with a Orcish Lumberjack. I recognize how powerful the card is, and I've got the other Delver as a follow-up.
He's got access to 5 mana right now. If he makes a land drop, it's going to be 6, but 5 will do. Colonian Hydra, something crazy.
We got 5. I mean, anything would be good here. Anything that costs that much mana is going to be a problem. Hydra would be very, very difficult to race from here.
Outclass whatever you got on the table.
Stormbreath Dragon would. Well, there's the Caldera Hellion. So he's going to be able to sacrifice Orcish Lumberjack. I'm reading it to verify that that card is absolutely a powerhouse here. It's going to kill both Delvers if it resolves.
Is Devour an enter the battlefield trigger, or is it part of the casting cost?
It's as it enters the battlefield.
Okay.
So it doesn't trigger. They just sacrifice as it enters. It comes in with those number of counters. Then the triggered ability goes on the stack. So there's no point where I'd be able to like bolt in response. Though I believe it damages itself, so bolt at that particular time would still be fine.
So now he's got a 4/4.
He has a 4/4 now. If he attacks with a Hydra, that counter doubles and then doubles again.
Your Goyf is, let's see, we got creature, land, instant so far.
Looking like a 3/4.
3/4 versus a 4/4. Although Goyf
gonna need a sorcery, most likely. If he tries to play an enchantment, countering that would also balance things out.
Goyf quickly can outclass that 4/4 though.
Yeah, any sorcery will do. Preordain, Ponder, Time Walk. Anything I draw that's a sorcery is pretty much going to get cast right away. really stabilize. Goyf is one of those cards that can play so well along the control line as well. There are times where he's fine in aggro, but as far as draw some cards, counter some stuff, make people discard stuff, sack some lands, like you do all of these things that you'd be doing anyways. And then, oh, Adrian playing the time walk here. I think that's very greedy.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to get an attack step in, but hopefully whatever he's able to play will make up for that. Or just lumberjack.
No, that looks like that was just an error.
Yeah, maybe he didn't.
Yep, I don't think he considered the sorcery element of it there.
Yeah, he could have just played the lumberjack, unless it wasn't in his hand.
I mean, certainly not worth it just to draw a card. He was winning that race. So it looks like Goyf is allowing me to stabilize here, and I'm going to need something else in order to get past it. I'm not going to be able to swing into that. It would basically kill my Goyf and his Hellion.
Got access to 6. What do you got? Play something cool. Do it now. Thank
3
you.
mana. You see a Magus here?
Oh yeah, maybe Magus.
You know, one of the things about Magus is it doesn't
Maybe not.
doesn't play particularly well with the Magus. It doesn't play particularly well with the Orcish Lumberjack, turning all of those guys into mountains.
Storm Breath Dragon.
Yeah, more Storm Breath.
And he costs 7 to go monstrous, right?
He does. I've got a Force of Will. That
Yeah.
card would be an absolute powerhouse here. Allow him to just swing overhead and win the race. Yeah, I don't know if it went monstrous, but of course the monstrous counters also get doubled by the Hydra.
Yeah.
A Mystical Tutor.
Probably finding Ancestral.
I would imagine so. It's really one of the only powerful lines left here. Mystical is tough because in this deck, a lot of the time you're ahead. So, if you're ahead and you have Mystical Tutor, you don't necessarily need to go get like an Ancestral or something. Sometimes you'd be better off just getting like a Flusterstorm or a Force of Will, which is very different than the type of decks that I usually play.
Yeah.
The type of decks that I prefer, it's not so much about like being ahead. It's like either you just won the game or you didn't. And if you didn't win, then go get Ancestral and go win the game. You know, there's not a lot of times where it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win. It's just gonna take me a few turns, so I just need to hold on. That's very different than what I've been playing for a number of years.
2 blue Gush. Into Ancestral. Now you don't play Fast Bond, right?
No, this deck doesn't play Fast Bond, and I'll tell you, a lot of matches I didn't even play Gush. I went entire matches without even seeing a Gush, and there were some other matchups where I had Gush and it wasn't even worth playing. So I've got the blue floating. I've got to put a token into play here. So a bunch of card advantage, 5 extra cards. I feel like I'm in pretty good shape here. Hopefully I'll be able to swarm around.
I mean, you could crash in with your Goyf right now. That's welcoming. Oh yeah, and you have a 1/1 to chump with. Seems fine.
Yeah, it's very comfortable to just turn in there. I've still got the bolts in the deck, so I've got the extra range as well. So it's definitely the extra pressure that you put makes your later draws better if you're drawing bolts. Survival. Now I could have held up Spell Pierce mana. Wouldn't have been amazing because he's got the Orcish Lumberjack, so I just walked away from that. Thought resolving Ancestral on my turn was more relevant.
So on his turn, he can discard the Magus to. He would need a 4-drop. I don't think there's a good. I don't think he has a. I think his fatties kind of start at 5.
Yeah, the real game changers do. The Cutter Hydra. He can come down pretty effortlessly. Now, Gilded Drake is actually a live card.
Yeah.
Because Stormbreath Dragon can hold off the Gilded Drake.
Oh yeah, he could just.
He'll have to get a Stormbreath back in play, but it could potentially be relevant.
I mean, trading a 3/3 for a 4/5 seems fine.
Oh, there we go. Bolt here seems very good. So this is main phase. If he's going to use that force, he's going to have to use the green mana now. That would leave him with just the one mountain in play for anger. So it's a good draw, good time to play bolts.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the type of deck, having played against a bunch of survival and having actually played Orcus Lumberjack decks. So.
What is he looking for? Birds of Paradise at this point?
Well, I think you've got to
Another
Squee and Anger. You're going to have to make something happen along those lines, and then possibly another Orcus Lumberjack, possibly a Birds of Paradise. Depends on how much pressure he feels he's under. Noble Hierarch would have been interesting at some point here, but Young Pyromancer's completely changed that combat map.
Yeah.
That's also another plus in terms of the exalted creature there. And that Hellion could be huge too. I mean, right now it's just a 4/4, but it would be totally possible for it to be at least a point or two toughness greater.
Oh yeah. I mean, as soon as he starts, if he gets to like essentially go off, then he just puts massive amounts of damage on the table. So the last card, I mean, he's got a difficult decision to make. Scavenging Ooze seems somewhat attractive here.
That may be the line he's thinking of. That would really gain a bunch of life, put me out of range, have a guy on board that's just absolutely going to be bigger than Goyf no matter what. And of course, when the Hydra finally shows up, just really get a massive advantage.
Gets the bird. If he draws a land, then he can discard. Oh, but he needs a creature. He can discard the Squee, play the bird, and sack a land, play Ooze, activate Ooze. There's only one sorcery still.
Oh, he's got to be careful of the... Oh yeah, that's a good point. Ooze could completely shrink Goyf as well. Yeah, that's a much more attractive line when you think about it that way. You got to be careful with the single mountain though. That's the other factor.
Yeah, like he would have to. It's completely all in. But I think that's kind of like the style of the deck, anyways. And he has a bird to like sort of hedge against that a little bit. He did draw the land, so the line is live.
That Delver of Secrets definitely messes with things. You cannot dirtle around with that guy in play. Oh, misstep is huge there.
Yeah. So
tempo-wise, that's just a blowout.
You can. Oh, and you don't have the lumberjack. He doesn't have the jack in play anymore. So the line I kind of talked about was not even real.
Delver not flipping again.
Wow, I thought that. What's the name of this card? Crater Hellion. Caldera Hellion. I thought that was gonna be. I thought that was pretty sweet.
This is very aggressive.
Yeah.
Swinging with the whole team.
Well, it's 2 swings from death, so like he blocks anything but Goyf, then he's dead on the next turn. He blocks the Goyf, then his guy dies, and he still takes 6 and goes to 5, and he's dead anyways. So yeah, that's a. Yeah, I agree with the swing.
Yeah, I don't know if I needed to swing with everything there. That was just really aggressive. Like he's got anger in the graveyard.
Yeah, it's true. And you're only at 10 life.
Alright, so I got a post-combat Jite. Jite underperformed for me big time. I brought it in a lot of matchups. It was frequently just too clunky. It's a very different format than Legacy. I know the deck looks a lot like a Legacy deck. I'm not sure if Jite is going to make the final cut Something like Electrickery might even be better.
Yeah. So he's got his lumberjack. It's jacking time.
So we'll be able, if he plays Lumberjack, he can get 4 mana here.
He just drew a Colonian Hydra.
All right. Yeah, so 4 mana.
Four is not going to do it.
Nope. We'll need something else. Now, if he sacrifices this to go get another Orcish Lumberjack, then he could net the mana.
Could net 1 mana, play the 5, swing for.
Well, he won't be.
You're tapped out.
He won't be able to swing.
Why?
Because he'll get rid of the second forest.
Oh, okay. So he needs to get ooze, gain some life.
Yeah, ooze is the only line he can take here.
So he can make oh, he can only make 1 mana right now. Well, how much does he have floating?
He should have 2 mana floating.
2 mana floating, so cast the ooze, gain 1 life. Yeah, it's not enough.
Well, you can discard the Hydra to go get an Orcish Lumberjack, to play it, play the Scavenging Ooze, and then use the extra mana. So that's a possibility. Because he has 2 mana right now.
Discard the thing to go down to 1 mana, get a Lumberjack, play it, 0 mana, sack it, 3 mana.
Well, tap, so he'd have 2 mana. He nets an extra mana out of it. Because he needs the survival and cast the Lumberjack. So he ends up getting 2 activations. It pushes him to 4. That way he doesn't die to Delver.
So activating survival would bring him down to 1 mana, right?
Yep.
And then casting the Lumberjack would bring him to 0 mana.
Yep.
Oh, and tapping the land, yeah. So that's 4 mana, yeah.
So that keeps him out of Delver range for 1 turn. But then he doesn't have any.
He's got nothing.
No mana left. If he draws a forest, then he could potentially use Scavenging Ooze a bunch. But yeah, doesn't look like there's anything he can really do here. The deck has a lot of plays. I don't think any of them can get him out of this situation. He was just a little bottlenecked on mana. The attacking his mana producers, the Orcish Lumberjack and the Birds of Paradise especially, were really backbreaking. Because otherwise, if he had 1 more mana, he would have been able to put out the Hydra and kill me.
Yeah.
I probably keep back a guy to block at that point.
Yeah.
If Lethal's actually on board.
Well,
Yeah.
Eric, moving on to the finals.
It was really fun to see Adrian's list there.
Yeah.
Is the end of the road for it, but I think in terms of him developing the deck, it's going to be very interesting to watch it play out. There's going to be a lot of cards that are tested out in here. I mean, any creature that's really got counters on it. I mean, he can pretty much play anything in this list.
Well, with his depth of knowledge of the card pool too, like he's gonna be able to use the data that from this tournament in a way that most people wouldn't be able to, as far as innovation goes.
Yeah, I think the Magus core right now, I think he's probably going to give that a few more events and see if that's where he wants to end up ultimately. But survival of the fittest, I mean, it's a real engine, and it looks like it may be able to start doing some stuff again. So very exciting.
Pretty cool. All right, going on to the finals.